Hey everybody, please when you come on, let me know that you can hear me. It's been a while since I've done anything on the love lessons. So I wanted to come back with that. I had posted something on my Facebook page and it really did get a lot of comments. And I'm going to start by addressing that because some people were probably a little surprised that hey Sam, surprised that I would post something like this because if you've been following me for a while or if you know me personally, you know that I personally didn't feel that way about this post. If you didn't see the post, I'm going to read it and then I'm going to get into the thirst traps that we're going to be talking about tonight. So this post said most Black women today who desire to be in a relationship, who desire to be in a relationship and are single because. And I wanted to emphasize who desire to be in a relationship because that was the main thing that I think a lot of the women looked over, and a lot of the women seem to have taken it personal when it didn't say those that didn't want a relationship or could care less or whatever. So it lists they lack accountability, they have extremely bad attitudes, they lack femininity. What else? It says they love to emasculate men, and I'm going to tell you my opinion about this before I get into today's topic. They're extremely toxic. Okay. They lack discernment. They're overweight. They have this one. I'm going to rephrase this one. I see Melvin popped on. Thanks for the love. They have children out of wedlock. Let me put it that way because it was very derogatory. The way that it was said, overemphasis on looks and swag, unteachable and unrealistic dating expectations. And I think the part that put the ladies on edge is where it says, unless sisters hyper focus on these areas and improve, they will remain at the bottom of the dating totem pole. So I think a lot of people, they seem to get offended. I had one person, she didn't know me personally, but she unfriended me for this. And I kind of thought it was hilarious because I personally feel like there are so many reasons why people are single. So we cannot nail it down into just one thing or five things. There's always something. But I do believe that there was some truth in this. So if you are a guy and you're listening, definitely give me some love on that if you agree. If not, then I definitely want you to comment that you disagree, because I tried to tag some guys because there was some females kind of wondering what you guys had to say about it. And I noticed that some guys didn't want to touch it, the subject, and I don't blame some of you. And then other people, they felt like they just weren't in the mood or whatever. But I really need to know from guys. Thanks for the love on this. I really want to know from guys before I start writing my book, Love Lessons. I need to know your perspective a little more. And I feel like from what you're telling me, I'm starting to see this in women as well. So I've been listening for about a year now, and I'm hearing the same thing from you guys. I'm hearing that women, you can't tell a woman anything. What I also hear, and I've even experienced this when I'm talking to males within my family, where they say they really want to just avoid having a confrontation with a woman, whether it's a debate or whatever it is, because she's going to always be right. So that is a big problem that I personally see. I have seen some bad attitudes. I am a teacher. So that being said, I teach high school, which goes into, we go from 16 to 21. So I see this all the time as far as the way that young ladies react to young men. And I think this carries into older women as well. So I've seen that. Femininity, same thing. I see that all the time where women have the too independent attitudes. So I definitely have seen that. Actually, my post last year that I did, Are Women Too Independent? I think that had the most views. And I think that that's for a reason. I think the reason is because some women know that they're too independent. I was too independent, but we're not going to go into that. So I did see that. Loving to emasculate men. Now, I think love is a strong word, but I have seen women get into their egos and they really kind of come for a man to chop them down for a number of reasons. So I have seen that in women. Lack discernment. I have lacked discernment. So I'm not even going to go into all the women that lack discernment, but I have done that before. So I know that that one is true. Overweight. I'm on a fitness challenge right now, and I know that there's some other women that are working on that as well. And I've talked to some high quality men, and they did tell me that they kind of say a size like mine is okay, but like they did say they're not interested, they're not attracted to women that are really overweight. So if you're a guy listening and you like thick women, shout out to the thick women. I'm thick, so I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I will say you got to put out the truth. You got to put the truth out there. Some high quality men, they kind of want trophy wives in some cases. And this is not all cases, but in some cases they do. So that being said, if you are overweight, you will not qualify. That's just the bottom line. So I know it hurts, but it just is what it is. And then also having children by multiple different men and things like that. I do have multiple children. I know my father even told me that that could create a barrier because you have to find the right guy that's willing to deal with that. So that being said, that I found some truth in as well. And then what else was it? Overemphasis on looks and swag. I had a period in my life where I kind of got a little caught up in that. And being unteachable, I personally haven't experienced this, but since I am a coach, I have experienced people like this, male and female alike. So that being said, I did see some truth in it, but the way that it was presented was not, it was very blanket way, it was a very extreme way, and it was not very politically correct. It wasn't diplomatic, blah, 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 blah. But when you look down to the root of things, this is what I am hearing men say. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Lowen. So I'm hearing men say this. So I just wanted to put it out there and just see what the reaction was. And what I also saw was that some women went to like straight defense. So instead of like reading comments just to see what guys are saying, they just went into pure defense about what they believed. I think I saw one woman that actually said, when are women really going to look at some things, without putting it back on men, without saying, well, men ain't ish, that kind of line, that line of reasoning, because we've done that, we do that, and it really doesn't solve anything. It's just, I think really there was a consensus of people saying that it takes looking at both sides. And I agree with that. I definitely think that that is true. I don't think, again, the way that this was put was the best way, but I do think it has some truth in it. So I just wanted to put it out there as like a little icebreaker, and I can address it in more detail at a later time if you guys have some questions as far as my perspective on that. I just thought it was really interesting. And then I think I had Crystal, she posted something. She was the last comment, and she was just talking about respecting everybody's opinions, but some people, their opinion comes from the sunken place. And I thought that was kind of cool that she said that, because she was just meaning like a lot of people that have the overemphasis on people being toxic, or they have an overemphasis on people having bad attitudes, or whatever it is, unrealistic dating expectations. That's a big one. If there's an overemphasis on any of those things, always something negative, then you can really tell that you kind of, these particular people are attracting who they are. And as a result, they are running into people with bad attitudes because they have a bad attitude. They are running into people that are toxic because they are toxic. So we can go all the way into the whole thing, but that's not what I was going to do today, because I'm still kind of processing it myself and trying to figure out what. It looks like I froze here. Am I good? Okay. So I'm trying to figure out what my take on it is. And it's just going to take me a little while to process it. But I wanted to talk about thirst traps. Thirst traps. And this is off the top of my head. I do these when I am truly inspired. And if you don't know the backstory of why I started doing this, I started doing this because when I became single, I was married for a number of years. I was basically with my ex-husband half of my life, and then I became single, and it was like I was kind of lost. So there was like some stuff in the dating world that I just really didn't understand. So I'm the type of person, probably because I'm a teacher, I'm a coach and all of that. When I start to learn something and I really feel like I get it, then I just have to share it. So this is me just sharing some of my experiences, and I want you guys to give me feedback. I come on here live, not because I have to, but because I really want feedback. So my intention is to talk to women primarily, but I'm noticing that guys interact with me a lot more. So ladies, I definitely want to hear your point of view. Men, I always love to hear your point of view and your comments on anything that I say, because it challenges me, because I am not a man, so I don't think like men think. So I definitely want to hear both sides. So if you're listening long enough, please send me comments, send me emails. You can reach me via email at detradcarter@gmail.com, or you can just comment right beneath so that I can hear what you have to say. So, thirst traps. First of all, what am I talking about? So I think we hear the term thirsty. Oh, she's thirsty. Oh, he's thirsty. So what do we mean by that? We mean that you just too ready. You are just too ready to jump on whatever that you think looks good. So I wanted to talk about thirst traps because I have definitely fallen into a few of these traps that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm not sure if you guys are still there before I start sharing, but shout out to Nikki again, Marty, and Alexandria. Wanted to shout everybody out, wanting you to know I do see you, and I want you to comment if you are here, interact with me, because I love to interact. That's why I do this live and I don't just record and throw it up. So thirst traps. Why did I want to talk about thirst traps? I wanted to talk about them because if you are a person like me or similar to me, you may feel like you have a healthy self-esteem. You may feel like you're not thirsty. You may feel like you got it together, right? And what I've noticed is that even the best of us fall into thirst traps. And I wanted to talk about what that looks like so you can do a self-examination, or if you're a person that is happily married or happily in a relationship and you got the single friend, because I was one of the single friends that always wanted to talk to my friends about my single life chronicles. Hey, Mr. Rucker. I always wanted to talk to my friends about what was going on in my love life and get feedback and all that. And they kind of would give me some insight. But I don't think, well, I have heard this first one. You make excuses for the person. So this is what I'm talking about. I know I personally had an ideal guy, right? And I think guys and females alike have an ideal person that they are checking for, right? Maybe you've written a list of your top 5. Hey, Michael, you've written a list of your top 5. Maybe you just have in mind what you really want, and you just know it when you see it, kind of thing. But all that being said, you have something in mind of what you want. So this person, you have met them. For me, it was, I kind of am attracted to alpha men. So men that can provide, men that can protect, men that they have swag, they kind of got it together, right? I'm attracted to that, and or at least they appear to have it together. So I'm attracted to that, but I found that I would fall into a thirst trap when a guy would seem to be like an alpha male, the type that I would go, my type, right? But then he wouldn't really be that alpha male when I really got to know him. So he really wouldn't be exactly what I was looking for when I really got to know him. So that being said, it was like I would fall into a trap and start to really get to know him, and then find out he wasn't who I thought he was. And then I would start making excuses for him. So I would start saying, oh, well, he doesn't call me that often because he's busy. He works a lot. Or, oh, well, he missed this this important day or whatever because he had something to do with his children and he didn't, maybe he's going to make it up. Like, I would give them too much of the benefit of the doubt. So it shouldn't ever be a question what their intentions were, if they were into me, if they were not into me. And I feel like this goes both ways. You start making excuses for people that you really, really like. Hey, Sam. So for some reason, I know that females, they can use their femininity. They can use the art of seduction to kind of get guys into this. And guys, if I'm wrong, please correct me because I'm not a guy. But this is just my thoughts about it, that females tend to use the art of seduction. They tend to put a little innuendos out that they're a certain kind of way in the bedroom, and it can kind of keep a guy hanging on when he comes to later find out that that's not really what she's about, but she was kind of leading him on to think that way. So that's number one. You start making excuses for the person. So she canceling dates on you. She is unavailable. She's not answering the phone. She's just playing hard to get, just stuff that just is unacceptable to you. I'm going to pause there at number one, and let me see what Johnny's saying. When beginning a relationship, you can't give benefits of the doubt on notes. Most people allow to meet their, I think he's saying most people allow you to meet their representatives. And that's true because we all put our best foot forward. And that being said, when you're falling into a thirst trap, you're giving them the benefit of the doubt before they've even earned it. So you got to learn to check yourself. If you start noticing people are doing some things that they should not do. So for example, canceling dates, not returning phone calls, unavailable all the time, acting disinterested. They're not interested in what you have to say. They're giving 1-word, 2-word answers to open-ended questions. They're not having a conversation with you. They're just making things difficult. You might be falling into a thirst trap if you're still making excuses for that person. If you're saying, oh, I'm gonna give it time and things like that, your intuition isn't lying to you. Like, it's just a thirst trap that you've fallen into because maybe they're the person that you can check off all the boxes. At least you think you can. You think you're able to check off the boxes, but in reality, that's not really the case because you don't even know the person. You are falling into a thirst trap. So been there, done that. So number two, if you've done this, you are not alone and it's all good. You just have to reflect and then move on. So if you're seeing somebody right now that they're not acting right, then it's best to kind of cut your losses. No love lost, but cut your losses and move on to the next person. I know women, and I'm not sure about men, so men, tell me if you guys do this too. If you meet somebody that you feel like checks off all your boxes, then you kind of stick with them longer than you should when they start displaying behavior that is less desirable. So you say, okay, well, for a woman, we say, well, this guy is an engineer, he makes this amount of money, or this guy is tall, dark, and handsome, so I don't want to let go of this guy. This guy, he doesn't have a lot of children, for example. This guy is educated. This guy is spiritual. Whatever it is that you're interested in, and you see that he has all these things, so you're just going to give him a pass when he says something that's borderline disrespectful. I think I had somebody, if you guys know me, I like to change my looks and things like that. And I had like these long earrings on, and he was like, with your ghetto earrings on or something like that. And that should have been enough to be like, you're done in this life and the next one. But, I was falling into a thirst trap where he seemed like he was a decent dude. So I was going to continue talking to him, but he should have been done, because he should never get another opportunity to disrespect me in any way. But thirsty. So looking back on it, it's hilarious, but like, why didn't you, see that? But I was giving him the benefit of the doubt and being like too nice or whatever, because he really didn't deserve it. So thanks for that comment, Johnny. Moving on to number 2, you allow them to violate your boundaries. So that was a good segue into that, because I was just saying my boundaries, I don't really tolerate disrespect. Like, it really puts me in another place. I don't like teasing. Even if it's like playful banter, if you say anything that can make me feel bad about how I look, how I'm feeling, just things that just are a little bit too much. I'm a really sensitive person, so I really don't do that. That's my own personal boundaries. And if you start letting somebody violate those boundaries, so say if you're celibate, but this man wants to come into your house and he wants to Netflix and chill, and you allow him to, because he has a nice car, he has a good job, he doesn't have 5 baby mamas, he go to church every Sunday, you allow him to come over and Netflix and chill just because of that, like, not okay. So if you've done this, I don't expect you to hit the like button. If you have a friend that did it, then definitely hit the heart button. I need to know that I'm on track and I'm not in left field. I want to see if you guys are experiencing the same thing that I've witnessed and experienced. But I've noticed that I've done it and I've seen other people do it. Allow people to violate your own personal boundaries. So say you said to yourself, I'm not going to have sex for 90 days. Or you said to yourself, I'm not going to have sex until marriage. Or you said to yourself, I'm not going to take a woman to a 5-star restaurant until we get to this level. Whatever. You come up with the things that are your personal boundaries, and you say, I'm going to give this woman a pass because she's special, or I'm going to give this man a pass because he's special. And then when it doesn't turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out, then you want to be mad. That's a thirst trap. You were thirsty. So you were definitely thirsty, and you wanted it to be more than what it was. So you were willing to put your own boundaries and to push back your own personal boundaries. So because you were really, really hoping that this particular relationship worked. And if you've done this, and if you're doing this, it's not too late to pull it back in. But I have noticed that that's a huge thirst trap, because a lot of females, they'll get on the phone and they're pissed at a dude because he's not calling them back after they had sex. Or a guy might get mad because he took this woman out to this nice restaurant and he wined her and dined her, and then now she's still not showing much interest. She's not answering phone calls. She's not really following through, or the relationship's not progressing the way that he thought it was going to progress. That's a thirst trap. You fell into a thirst trap. You got to take that L and keep it pushing if it doesn't work out. Don't be mad at that other person, because I've said this before, but nobody can really play you but you, because in this situation, you had control over it. You had boundaries that you could have set, and you decided you were going to let this person step over your boundaries. And then you're going to get pissed off because things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. So you got to take responsibility for you, and you got to take responsibility for your own actions. So that leads me to the third and final point before I get into the love lessons. And if you guys have any questions that pop up in your mind about relationships as I'm talking, then go ahead and type those in. If you don't feel comfortable, then go ahead and inbox me your questions, because I'm so passionate about answering questions, because I had a lot of them when I was like really dating and just out in the trenches on front line. I just had so many questions, because even though I was older, into my 30s, I just really didn't understand these dating streets. So not dating the city, but dating streets, I really just did not understand so many things. So I just had questions like, what does it mean when they do this? What does it mean when they do that? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? Maybe he's thinking this. And I'm an analyzer, so it was all bad, because sometimes I wasn't even emotionally distressed. I just really did not understand. Hey, Deshonda. Hey, Patricia. Let me see. I think I said hey to everybody that came on. So my first point, my second point, before we get to the third point, if you're just coming on, thank you, and definitely show me some love if you like this type of content. But you make excuses for the person is a thirst trap. That's a sign that you have fallen into a thirst trap. You allow them to violate your boundaries. That's another sign that you have fallen into a thirst trap. Now, the last one, and I feel like this might be the most important one. You are led by your feelings instead of wisdom. So listen up, listen up. If you start to feel some type of way, you have definitely fallen into a thirst trap, because you have been blinded. When you have hearts in your eyes and you don't really know the person like that, you fallen into a thirst trap. So maybe you enjoy their conversation. Maybe you just love talking to them so much, because guys, I feel like you can do this too, because I feel like some guys have done this with me, where they feel like they meet somebody that they can tell anything to, but once they learn the details about this particular woman's life, they really can't fulfill her needs, but they don't want to stop talking to her. I had a lot of guys like that. So I know that you guys are out there. If it sounds familiar, give me a heart. If not, comment why it doesn't make sense to you, because I need to know this. I'm writing a book. I have kind of had to press pause on it a little bit, because I had so many changes going on in my life, but I still am going to get this book out. So that being said, if you feel like, I really thank you. I see the love. So if you feel like you really like this female, but you are not able to give her what she needs, you don't want to be in a relationship with her necessarily, but you don't want to like break it off. Or females, you know you cannot see yourself being married to this dude, but you are feeling him. So every time you see a text come through, you be like, and people are like, what you smiling for? Who's texting you? But you know, this is all the same person that they're not really up to your standards, but you really like them. Okay. You have fallen into a thirst trap. That was like my biggest thirst trap. If I'm wrong, if you have a different thirst trap that was your biggest one, then please let me know. But infatuation was huge for me, because I'm so passionate. I'm so like, oh my goodness, like I can fall in love like so easy. is not hard for me because I see love everywhere. So that was super easy for me to fall in love and to make people feel like I absolutely wanted to be with them forever. And like, I really did. I'm so good at that. And it worked for me and against me. And I think guys can do it with females too, where they can make her feel like she is the one, the onlyest one that he's got his eye on, everything like that. And they know they cannot see themselves with her long term. I think I could have been that person for some people where they were just so infatuated with me, but they didn't. That wisdom told them, if they were using wisdom, that I would not be a good fit for them. But they continue on with me because they were so infatuated with me. And I've done that so many times. That is a thirst trap, okay? So warning, warning, warning. If you know that this dude on paper or this female on paper, if we just do a profile of this person, they are not really it. They are not it for you. Then you know, and you still like completely engaging with them, and you don't really see an end in sight. You falling into a thirst trap. These relationships can last for years out of you being thirsty. Years. I've done it. I've seen other people do it. I'm not the only one. So I would love the love on this one. I would like a like for this point. I would love a heart for this point. But if I don't get it, I already know this point is bomb. That you are led by your feelings instead of wisdom. You are caught up in infatuation. That is one of the biggest thirst traps there is. So I can go on and on about this particular topic, but I'm not going to right now. That's the one that I'm most passionate about, is the infatuation thing. If you are a spiritual person, then you already know what it is, or not. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not do that. But I'm like super spiritual, and I try not to make this too spiritual just because I want to make this plain, and I want to be like super real. Like, this is what's going on out in these dating streets. They are like, oh my gosh, females. And I'm talking about 30 and 40. I'm not talking about little kids. Even though I teach young kids, I'm talking about people that's 30 and 40 sounding like they're 19 and 20, okay? Because I have clients that I've coached in the community that's around those ages and stuff. So I'm talking the same stuff they say is what I hear adults saying. And they're saying, but he's fine, but she got a nice body. You know what I mean? But I'm going to miss those gifts. I'm going to miss those dates and all of that kind of thing. You are infatuated. You know that this person is not it, but you have fallen into the thirst traps. There is danger, 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 danger. Warning, warning. I cannot warn you enough for a time waster. You are wasting your own time. It's not the other person. You have deliberately said, I'm going to waste my time with this person because he's fine, because he got a good job, because she got a banging body. Like, I've never dated somebody with a booty as big as hers. Like, just stupid stuff. So you gotta have to admit that, because when you get so-called played, don't do that, because don't sit there and talk about, like I was talking about in this post, oh, they're toxic. Okay, they're toxic, but you spent all that time with them. You let them violate your boundaries, right? You started making excuses for the person. You started being caught up in your feelings. So that's why you kept talking to them. But they toxic. They're toxic now. Now you want to call them toxic. They're the one that's toxic. And that's why I was talking about this post. It has some stuff in here about overemphasis on looks and swag and stuff like that. You caught up in how somebody looks. And I know I love good looks. So, I mean, I've done it. Oh, he's cute. I've told a guy this before. Oh, you wouldn't get away with that if you weren't that cute. And he was like, don't let that be the reason. And I had to think about it, and I stopped. I had to listen to him. Like, listen, sis. Listen, sometimes you got to talk to your sis. Stop. Like, He's telling you, don't let that be the reason. Don't let that be the reason that you put up with my foolishness, that you go for the whole friends with benefits. Don't let that be the reason. If you don't want a friend, then why does that one dude, get to be the friends with benefits? Because you're looking at the bulge. Oh, I think I went too far into it, but I just wanted to be real. I wanted to be real that some of us are petty like that, but then we want to blame that other person. So we want to blame that other person and saying, oh, they're trying to manipulate me, they're toxic, they're this and that. But when at the end of the day, you were trying to look to see what kind of bedroom skills this particular person had before you were willing to let it go. Then when you got to see what the bedroom skills was like, you were like, okay, I'm gonna have to get this again. I'm gonna need this at least 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 times before I stop. And at that point, you're infatuated. So you big thirsty now. I'm thirsty too. I'm talking about thirst so much. Hold on before I get into the love lesson. Because I'm thirsty too. Right now, all this thirst trapping, it made me thirsty because I'm telling you, this is so real for me. And I think that women don't tell their girlfriends this stuff. I don't know if guys tell me if y'all do this. But I know I'm the realest, so I have said it at least once. When I was younger, I'm not proud of it. This is not me right now in this season of my life. But so that's why I can just put it out there. But I have said to a girlfriend, I really don't like him, but I want to sleep with this dude. Okay? So I'm going to need you to be honest with yourself. That's why I'm being honest with you guys, because I think some of you guys are lying to yourself. Thank you for the love. I'm not sure who's giving the love, but thank you for that. You're lying to yourself. You're telling yourself that you actually are considering a long-term relationship with this person, and you're not. You too grown for it. So this is targeting people that are over 30, okay? So when you get to talking to your friends and they don't want to go have date night with you, they still hitting you up randomly or whatever for what, whenever they want to get it in where it fits in. And then you want to complain because when you happen to be free, that person's not free. You want to complain about them, but really you just thirsty. That's really all it is. You don't want to wait for somebody that's suitable for you. You don't want to wait for somebody that you can fall in love with. You don't want to wait for somebody to get to know you, for you to get to know that person. You don't want to go through that process because you said you're tired of it. I have heard so many of y'all say this, that I'm tired of this. And then I've heard a lot of people that's married. They'll say things like, I don't know what I would do if I was single again, because I wouldn't want to go through all that. But the facts of the matter is you have to go through the process. Personally, I can't stand the process at times because you have to be patient with the process. But what I want everybody to stop doing is probably not going to happen. But what I want people to stop doing is stop blaming other people for your mistakes. Okay? So you're blaming other people because you made excuses for them. Okay? They showed you who they were, and you're still making an excuse for that person. But it's their fault. How is it their fault? You saw what it was. You knew what it was from jump, but it's still their fault. You're blaming other people because you let them do what they wanted to do with you. Period. Like, you can look at that all kinds of different ways. You're blaming other people for that. You allowed them to do that, not them. Okay? And then the last one, you the one that got caught up in your feelings. That's why I'm not even getting biblical on this one. I'm not getting biblical because I know I have a lot of people, a lot of church folks that I'm connected with, because that's really my core. Spirituality is my core. So I'm not going to the Bible on this. Let's get practical. The reason why they say not to have sex before marriage is because Not because God wants to withhold a good thing for you because it feels so good and God don't want you to have it. No, it is because it clouds your judgment. So when you start getting it, okay, when you start really getting it, and I'm saying this, I feel like I'm talking to young people, but I know that I felt this way as an older person, and I needed somebody to tell me, whether they were on YouTube, whether they were on Facebook, whatever, but I needed somebody to tell me that. Like, there is a reason for abstaining from sex. It's not the Bible says so type thing. There's a practical reason to abstain. And I'm not going to go into the 90-day rule and all that. I think that's just little rules that we use to help ourselves. But really what it is that if you don't know this person enough to trust that person to be completely naked, I'm talking about inside and out. If you don't feel that comfortable with that person, that's not somebody you should be laying down with. And I feel like that's males and females. That's not just a female thing, because females run game too. And actually, we're really good at it. And I was about to target females, but guys kept telling me, no. It is both sides. So that being said, with females running game too and males running game, you've got to have a clear head. So just because, with the female, because her body is banging, like she's beautiful, she's all the things, like she just, wow, like intellectual, spiritual, like personalities bomb, like all of these things, that does not mean that you should be leading her straight to the bedroom, because if you do that and she was putting on a show, then you're not going to be able to think completely straight, because you're going to fall into a thirst trap. You are going to start making excuses for her. You are going to let her violate your boundaries, where you're doing stuff that you feel like you're doing stuff too soon. You are going to be led by your feelings instead of wisdom. So as you get older, you have to start applying what you know. That's what wisdom is. Application. It's not just knowing. It's not being able to just let me put you up on game. It's, can you apply the things that you know? And that's kind of where, now that I'm approaching 40, it's time to really start applying some stuff that I actually know. Like, I know that if a person is somebody that I really want to spend, like he can even have the potential for me to spend the rest of my life with, I know if I'm settling for this person and I'm making a conscious decision of whether I want to do that. So when you definitely get into your 30s, you really need to start taking a cold, hard look at yourself and your actions and your decisions. So this reminds me of, shout out to Trent. He don't even watch these, but shout out to Trent, because I think I was telling him some of my dating woes, and he was like, oh, well, it sounds like to me like you just making bad decisions. And that hurt, because it was so true. It wasn't that these men were just terrible men, because I attract great men. Like, there's very few men that, I've dated and I just felt like he's just a bad dude. Like, they're great men, great fathers, and if they were a father, not everybody has kids, great careers. Like, I attract great men. So it's like, well, what's the problem? It's me and my decision making, because I'm falling into the thirst traps, because I made excuses for those people, because even though they were great guys, they didn't do everything perfectly, so they weren't meeting my standards. I let them violate my boundaries, trying to be too nice, afraid that they would think this or they would do this if I did whatever. So all of those things, all of that stuff was my fault. So all that being said, I just gave you a few of the thirst traps, because I'm sure there are some other ones. So if you think of some other ones, shout out to your girl, because I definitely want to include some of this stuff into my book. As far as, I know I did a video on this last year where it said, are you desperate? And it was basically, I was talking about some of the same things, like basically thirsty. So I don't know if thirsty's a little dated, desperate, thirsty. I don't know which way I want to go with it yet. I'm brainstorming. But if you can think of anything, then let me know. And if you're not thinking of it right now when you're watching it, whether the replay or whatever, just inbox me and let me know some of those things that you've seen out there. Even if you're married, because I noticed like some people that are married will check this out. Even if you are married and you have single people that you talk to, or when you reflect back on your single life, if you have had some moments of desperation, or you have had some moments to where you were feeling a little thirsty, a little bit, then give me some scenarios and stuff, because you don't have to use names or anything like that. But I love reading the stories and seeing like the real stuff that really goes on in people's lives that they're not going to get up in the pulpit and talk about, right? So we got to have the conversations. We got to have the hard conversations. And that's really what I'm about, is having those hard conversations, those real conversations about what's really going on out here in these dating streets, okay? So what's the love lesson? What's the point in all this? Why did I want to talk about this? What I want people to do with all of this is just start being honest about what you want versus what you really feel like you can handle in this season in your life. That was like my biggest one of my biggest love lessons. I really gotta like narrow down my love lessons, because I know I don't want more than 10. Maybe I'll do a video on that with all of my love lessons. I don't want more than 10, but this one is just so packed. Being honest about what you want versus what you can handle in this season of your life. I have had men date me, and I was like the ideal woman of what they wanted, but they could not handle somebody like me, because I do require, excuse me, I am a responsibility. So when it comes to becoming my husband, you know, if you're thinking long term, so when you think about like, okay, if I want to be with somebody like her, then what is that going to require? Can I do that? Because technically I do have 3 kids. One of my children, he is an adult, but I do have 2 kids, even though they're older. That's a responsibility for a guy, you know? So if you're a guy and you're looking at a female that has children, you have to consider that, you know? And then if you're a female and then you're looking at a guy that is a single dad, you have to consider that. Are you going to be stepmommy? You know, are you going to step in when necessary to take over some things, you know, for him, and to really support him and to really help him? Can you really support this man in the way that he needs to be supported, right? I had there was a guy very briefly, but I was like super thirsty with this dude. I don't even understand why. Looking back on him, like, why was you so thirsty? I don't know. Like, that was crazy. But anyway, this particular guy, he was into music, and I was not, like, I'm a church girl at heart, you know, and he was like, kind of, I wasn't like both feet in the church at that particular time in my life, and he just kind of wanted to go out to the club on weekends a little too much. Like, I've been in school for half my life. I'm not in school right now, thank God, but you know, my weekends would consist of watching, you know, movies or TV or whatever, and writing papers. Like, that sounds like really lame, but that's kind of how my life was. And I would go out once in a while, and then as I got into him, fell into the infatuation trap, I realized what he would require to be with him. I could not handle that in that season of my life when I was in school. I could not be going out where he said he was upset. I could tell he was upset. He acted like he wasn't upset, but he had went out, and then he came back home and was like, we weren't living together. I just meant to my home. But he came back and was like, everybody was asking where your girl at, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to handle this, because I'm not going to the club and a bar with you like that. Like, that's just not what I wanted to do. That's kind of like a once in a while kind of thing. So if that's what he was into, I couldn't handle that in that season or any other season. That's just kind of like more of an extreme, one of my more extreme examples, where I fell into a thirst trap of just wanting to use this particular guy for other things that I wanted in that time, but I really wasn't able to give him what he needed. And I feel like guys, I use myself as an example because I hear guys, and guys have told me so many times it goes both ways. It goes both ways. And these women are out here acting like it doesn't go both ways. So I'm trying to like open up my mind to see the other side of things. And what I'm starting to see is that everything that applies to women apply to men. You know, it really goes both ways. So even though women complain and make it seem like guys are the bad guys, like they're the ones that do everything wrong, we do the same thing that they do. We just don't do it in the way that they do it. So we do things in a way that is a little more discreet, I guess, because he would have never looked at it as I was using him, but technically I was. Because I wasn't using him for like typical things like money, but I was using him for companionship and just somebody to make me feel like I was not alone, you know, because it's not fun not having anybody to connect with when you want to connect. But it's still not an excuse to use somebody for that. That's not cool at all. So not proud of that. So that was the love lesson. It looks like I didn't really have anybody that, okay, I missed a question here. I miss Dr. Tyus coming on. I hope he's still there. Shout out to Dr. Tyus. I had a problem with that at one time. I wish I saw that comment, but I didn't see it come through. I'm trying to scroll through and see if I can read some of the comments before I can get off here. Let me see. Because even the greatest guys have these problems. Let me see. I'm going through the comments, so let me see. Okay, so Sam's just saying I'm funny. Yeah, that's typical Detra. When I'm showing y'all who I really am, I'm like super private, and I can be very like to myself in person in real life. But people that know me, this is how I talk to people that know me, like my best friends. So all of y'all, my bestest friends tonight, I'm trying to scroll down and my computer is like not really letting me do what I want to do right now. It's not letting me be great. But just give me a second because I really want to. Oh, there's my babe. He got on here. He must have been one giving me all the hearts. Is this going to let me scroll down? Jeez. Okay. Nobody can play you but you. Yes, Sam. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that was a big one. Thank you, Michael. I'm enjoying your podcast. I am on Apple and all the platforms, so you'll be able to listen to this at a later time. If you missed it, hey, Kyra, I haven't talked to you in forever. Closest thing to having nothing, not strong enough to truly be single and celibate. I don't even know, like, if it's a strength thing, or I know for me, it's like I just didn't want to do it. So I think it's more of like, I really feel like it's a personal decision because we can do anything that we set our minds to do. It's just some of us choose not to do it, and we have our reasons of why we choose not to do it. But here's my thing. Don't complain about it if you're not going to do it and you get burnt, right? You're not going to use wisdom and it don't go your way. Don't complain about it. I don't want to hear about it. Don't call your friends and tell them all the things and say like how it was their fault and all that because you let them violate your boundaries because you already knew what it was, but you was hoping it was going to be more thirsty. What did I tell you, Sam? I don't know if you're still on there. He said, I remember you telling me about your woes. I don't know. I hope I'm getting it. But I'm such an open book, so I don't have anything to hide. So pretty much you can ask me anything unless you're being disrespectful, because I don't do disrespect, and I will answer. Brennan says most are looking for someone else to fulfill what they need, and when the need is not met, the so-called relationship, you're disappointed. Yes, that's another thirst trap as well. When you just want somebody to fulfill your needs, so being needy, that's a thirst trap. Then Vernon says, we all use having a faith background, but we are just actually using what we learn helps us in making wise decisions. So yeah, I think the root for a lot of us is our faith, because everybody believes in something, but really at the end of the day, it comes down to making a decision. What kind of things are you going to live your life by? Like, how are you going to live your life? Okay. And then let me see. Thank you for the insight. So I'm glad I can help, Michael, because this is definitely like, this is what I live for. You hear me? This is what I live for. I live for people learning from my mistakes, because I have definitely made so many mistakes. And some people look at it as I've taken so many L's, but I look at it as I've learned so many lessons. And I've been able to actually become better because of it. I was able to take responsibility. And I'm going to wrap this up with, let me look real quick, what I started with. I want to wrap this up with going back to this. The reason why I started with this, when I talked about some women are single because they lack accountability, when I realized like really how thirsty I was, like it was like, if I were to just be honest and just own up to my own stuff, I could have avoided a lot of this. If I had a better attitude about some things in the past, then maybe some of those men that lied to me, maybe they could have told me the truth, but they didn't feel comfortable telling me the truth. This sounds like an excuse, but I promise it's not. But they didn't feel comfortable telling me the truth because they were trying to control my reaction, because they were scared. This is back into my 20s when I was married, but I know my ex-husband, he was afraid that I would overreact if he really told me the truth. So he would lie to me because he was hoping that, I wouldn't overreact. He was hoping that I wouldn't have a bad attitude. What did Sam said? Oh, thank you, Sam. I love and appreciate what you do. Your podcast and live videos continue to inspire the next generation. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. That means so much. But this is a truth moment, because I'm doing this to be an example for you. So you don't have to do it so publicly like I am, but you may choose to do this just to yourself in a journal, in the mirror. Maybe you want to be accountable to one of your friends or whatever. But these are issues that I personally had. I lacked femininity. I really, like, it wasn't like I love being pretty. So it wasn't like I didn't like being pretty. I liked dressing up. I liked high heels. I liked all of those things, but that's not really true femininity. I'd have to do a whole video to explain what I mean, but I did lack femininity. I was definitely masculine in some ways. And when I got into that masculine energy, I could chop a man down so fast. Like, it was crazy how fast that I could chop a man down. And now it's like I avoid that like the plague. Like, I will run away from doing that to anybody because I don't want anybody to do something like that to me. Like, I treat people how I want to be treated. And I wouldn't say, I guess in my 20s, I could say I had some toxic behaviors and then was trying to paint a good picture of myself, acting like I wasn't, and then still tolerating toxic. If you tolerate toxic behavior, you're probably toxic too. So just for anybody, that was for free. Like, that's just a side note. If you're tolerating toxic behavior, you're probably toxic too. So if you find yourself in a long-term toxic relationship, yeah, probably toxic. Discernment, just not willing to seek God enough, long enough so that I can see what a guy is about. And as a result, I think I carried this in my body. I believe that, and this is like probably getting too deep for some people, but I believe that emotions carry energy. And when you are weighed down by the issues in life, you can really start to gain physical weight. And I think a lot of women that are like overweight, even guys too, they're overweight, they're really carrying some things, some hurts and some pains. Instead of letting all that stuff go, they choose to just continue to keep going, and then they just add more baggage on top of baggage. Okay, so you can tell, like, some people are genetically, they're just going to be thin, so of course it doesn't apply. But people that can gain weight and gain weight pretty easily, a lot of it is connected to your emotions. So all of these things that were on that list that I posted, it just was so like relevant. I don't know. I didn't even realize how much it tied together until I really just started talking to you guys about it. So I appreciate you guys listening and listening to me share my heart. I do have, for those of you that don't know, I did write a book. I do have a portion of the book available for free on moreanyoucoaching.com. And it just can really help you if you're trying to just let go of some things, you're trying to focus on your purpose, you're trying to move on and become a better you. It's called There Is More in You. So check out my website if you want more of what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it looks like I have gone through most of the comments. If I did not see your comment, then I will read every comment. It means a lot to me when you guys comment. So even if you're watching a replay, comment or go ahead and hit me up in my inbox because I want to hear from you. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for interacting. So even if it was for a brief time, I appreciate it. And I want your feedback. Then always remember, I try to end all of my podcasts, messages, whatever you want to call them, with this, that no matter what you've been through, there's always still more in you. Okay? So there's more in you. So don't let the stuff that has happened to you, do not let it deter you. If you're a little bit thirsty, then that's okay. You can go to the King and you can thirst no more, or you can get you some water. So I'm about to work out, y'all. So definitely interact with me though, because I want to keep this conversation going. And I'm gonna go ahead and log off now, and I will see you online soon. Thanks.